Hi everyone, this is Rick here. If you can see me already, I'm fixing to go live on YouTube, Digital Fortress. Just getting set up here. Might take me a moment to get it ready, and I'll be checking chat. I'm going to do surveys. I'm going to go over these surveys that I had made on Twitter, and it's pretty interesting. I got some pretty interesting inputs and information. It's kind of cool. Let me make sure I'm ready to go here. Got my title right. Yep, looks good. Okay. Okay. A lot of stuff going on with Davos today. If you want to see what's going on with Davos, check out Charles Hoskinson's Twitter. I wish I could be there. I just got back from travel. I just got back from San Diego, so time to unwind a little and get some videos in. Hi, Buko. I see you there. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I'm going to get going over this survey very shortly. I'm trying to get an extra chat window up so that I can, there we go, so that I can follow chat. Mashur Turk, hello, how you doing, sir? Welcome. Okay. All right, so hi everyone, welcome to Digital Fortress. My name is Rick. Glad to see some people showing up. I'm going to leave this live stream up. I did a lot of Twitter polls in the last several days, and what I did is collected them together and assembled them here, and it came out pretty interesting. So, I mean, it's just kind of cool to get some data, so I'm going to share that with you all. I just want to put a reminder out there, if anyone is a stake pool operator and you would like to come on Digital Fortress for your own personal advertisement or marketing for your stake pool, you can just come on. It'll be one-on-one. Basically, you do all the talking, provide your logo or something. I'll get you a really cool thumbnail made. And you can tell everyone about your stake pool, what your goals are, your aims, and your percentages, and how you're going to make things work. Anything you want, really. 5 or 10 minutes would be probably perfect to get that out there. So any pool operators, please let me know. Email me at rickymac@email.com, RICKYMAC@email.com. Email me there and let me know. I'll get you on the Digital Fortress channel. Now let me get my screen share going here. I made a PowerPoint so that it is much easier to follow. Make sure I get the right one out here. Well, I took the tweets and put them in a PowerPoint and make sure that looks right. That looks pretty good. Yeah, there we go. And let me go to the first one here. All right, so I had a bunch of tweets kind of shotgun style over the last week where I just asked a whole bunch of questions on Twitter about Cardano ITN, things that people were interested in, questions that people are asking in Telegram and on Twitter. So I figured I would kind of coalesce those into a poll, and so here they are. Let me make sure I still got my chat going. I do. Hey, Chris Ray's there, one of my old Guardian buddies. Nick Pavlika. Hi, Nick. Welcome. All right, so let me go over these. The first question, I got 14 slides. I'll try to be quick, but also provide some context to the polls and also answer your questions if you have questions, since it's a live stream and I can see chat now. Okay, so the first question there was, for anyone running a pool on the Cardano ITN, how would you rate the experience so far on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being bad and 10 being great. Really good results here. The final results, the highest number was 8 to 10 and 6 to 7. So it's in the upper half of the spectrum running a pool. It is a little bit tedious running a pool right now. I expect it to get a little bit smoother over time. And Twitter tends to lean a little bit on the friendly side when it comes to your favorite coin, if you know what I mean. Like if you were to ask on Twitter, if you were to do a poll and say, what would be the price of ADA at the end of the year 2020? And the options were $1, $2, $3, and $4. Well, you're going to get a whole lot of votes on $4 because that's what people want. But that's just for price, okay, and speculation. But when it comes to opinion polls, they are very important to get the opinion of people who are customers of your stake pool or very, potential customers. It's very good to get customer feedback and customer input, and that's what I did with some of these polls, and you'll see that here. So it leaned a little high on the experience so far. I would agree with around a 6 to 7 range. There's always room for improvement. It's still very early, and we are in the Rust code and not the Haskell code yet. So let me see if there's any questions in chat. Please let me know and I'll go check. Welcome Urban Growth Systems Walla Walla, and welcome Darren N. Hi everybody. Okay, and oh, Walla Walla says your pool's been doing great so far. Thank you very much for that. It has been doing well, and I've got two great assistants, Kyle and Christian. More than assistants, they're doing all the work, and I'm kind of like managing and reading stuff, and yeah, there you go. So anyway, this is for the surveys on Twitter. If you want to check out my Twitter, that's where they're at. Some of these polls are done and complete. Some are still active. That was out of 202 votes. Now the next one, let me get through these slides. I'll try to go through them rapidly, like I said. The next poll was, how much ADA rewards have you made on the Cardano ITN? Resoundingly, a lot more than expected. So Twitter only gives you 4 options to pick from. And so you got to word your survey questions carefully to get as much information as possible. If you try to narrow the question too much, it's just a leading question and you're going to get whatever result you want by the way you word the question. But if you make it an open-ended question and provide people a broad spectrum of options, then you'll truly find out what people's opinions and perceptions and perspectives are, as opposed to getting just a really narrow answer that you're trying to look for. So I try to be broad with these polls to get what is the true answer. And Twitter, it can be kind of accurate, because I ran a survey last year. I ran 30 knowledge questions, and some of you may have taken them. And out of the 30 knowledge-based questions that are factual-based questions, Twitter got 29 out of 30 correct, which is pretty good. Now, these ones are opinion-based, so it's like, what's your favorite flavor, chocolate or vanilla, So opinion is a very good data point to get. Okay, so next one we have here. So everyone was getting a lot more than expected. I'm very happy to hear that. I hope everyone's happy with that as well. Let's enjoy this ride early while we can. And the software will get better, but I also think the rewards will diminish a little bit because of fine-tuning and the amount of ADA left as well. Okay, any questions in chat? Looks good. Daedalus testnet takes a while to log in. Yeah, it sure does. That was from Envios Doretos, and I've got some polls on that. Okay, so the next one is, on the Cardano ITN, that was perfect timing. On the Cardano ITN, are you having a greater number of issues with the Daedalus wallet this past week over previous weeks? And the only reason I asked this question is because I saw a lot of questions in Telegram. They seemed to go up. I didn't keep count perfectly, but I just kind of noticed a trend. And I also noticed myself, my Daedalus was opening all the time a while back. Then after 086 came out, my Daedalus hasn't really opened right since. Anyway, 43% said yes, increased. 19.2% said no, but the same issues though. 12.5% said working great. And then the other 25% is show results for people who just want to see the raw results. Maybe they use Yoroi, or they don't use Cardano at all. But for the people that do, it looks like there's a pretty high percent in there. I apologize for the jet noise. There's an Air Force base right down the way. All right, so let's see. The next one, any questions on that one? All right, yeah, I think that answers Urban Growth Systems question there about, let me see, Envios Directos, try to log in as administrator. Oh, I see, you're answering their question. So if you're on Windows, you can try logging as an administrator to open up your Daedalus wallet. That's a nice workaround. I mean, if it does work for you, then great. But on Mac and Linux, I didn't notice any workarounds in that nature. It's best not to log in as administrator on those type of operating systems. So we're going to go to the fourth question. The next one is, what % fee do you think is fair for pool operators to charge on the Cardano ITN? Now, this is a very important question to myself and the pool operators. Now, when people answer on Twitter, anyone can answer it, even random people from other crypto projects, or even people who don't even know how to spell crypto, but they can still answer the questions. But in general, what happens over time, there's 438 votes on this question, and the resounding 3 to 4% range, 33.6%. Okay. Now, if I'm a delegator, I would want as low as possible, 0% or 1%. If I'm a pool operator, I would want as high as possible, 8% or higher, especially pools that have developers working with or for the pool, or the pool's trying to develop a project, they might have to charge like 10%. Okay, but I didn't go up to 10% on there, so you can leave a comment down below and say, hey, we'd like to do 10% because we're trying to fund a development team or something like that. But in general, it balances out. You have people who are pro higher percent, people who are pro the lower percent, but in the end, you end up with, I would say, a negotiable number, 3 to 4%, not bad. Right now, my DigiPools, I'm running a 5 and a 6%. I was going to go 8%, but now that we have more data and people have at least a month's worth of exposure to the ITN, it looks like the 3 to 4% range is a little bit more amicable for both the operators running the pool and the delegators who are delegating to the pool. So, all right, let me see any questions. Let's see here. All right, looks good so far. All right, that's number 4 out of 14. Number 5 here, continuing on with people's experience and exposure in pool operators. Question number 5 is a technical poll. This is for anyone running a pool on the Cardano ITN. And this just isn't for pool operators. This affects the users. Because you know how your dataless won't open? Well, this is one of the reasons right here. What is the number one issue if you had to pick just one issue to be addressed? And the 4 that I had listed were the 4 most commonly talked about. Adversarial forking, natural forking, node crashing, and stuck block height. And we say stuck now. Always put the ED at the end of the word stuck. People love that. It's kind of funny. That's on from adapools.org, stuck. And so that kind of stuck. Okay. So number 1 was adversarial forking at 47.1%. And then you had natural forking was the next one, which is where you have multiple leaders that are different leaders from operated by different pools, and coincidentally they make the same block height, and the code tends to naturally kind of take care of that by keeping the longest chain and pruning off the shorter chains. But the adversarial forking becomes more problematic because it causes more forks to occur, and a lot of times it causes some nodes to get distracted more than usual off onto a fork, and it causes people to lose blocks. So that one I'm not surprised is number 1 at 47%. And if you notice, if you compare it, the other 2 is 13%, 12, and 26%. So that's a very large plurality right there, 47% for adversarial forking. It does seem to have abated a little bit, but it's still a threat. It's still possible to happen. So let me go on to the next one. Looks like a few other folks showed up in chat. Thank you for joining on Digital Fortress. I appreciate it. The next one, number 6 out of 14, is this relates to the last question. So I organized them in order so that they make sense, or at least kind of make sense. So the next question is, how should Cardano pool operators deal with the adversarial nodes causing forks? Okay, and that was the number 1 issue from the last slide. The highest voted poll so far, the answer is the protocol should handle. Okay, I agree. Twitter, good job, Twitter. At least that's what I agree with. So if there's adversarial forking, the protocol should handle it. The question becomes, how should it handle it? Should it be a penalty? Should it be completely automated? Should it be transparent to the pool operators? There's various different ways that can be used to handle the adversarial forking. The other options were ban the IP address, which is ban the IP address is not bad. That is a technical solution. It's already available in firewalls and software kits. So banning an IP address or blacklisting is not bad. That has been in practice since the beginning of TCP/IP in probably the 1980s. So that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But option B is bad. Shame them on Twitter. No, that's not the way to do it. Public shaming is like the absolute last resort. Hopefully it never comes to that, but it is an option on the table. If it ever has to be done, then it's still there. But it is the lowest voted one, along with both A and B. All right, so that was number 6 on the list. If anyone has any questions, please let me know in chat. I'm going to go to number 7 on the list. Also related to the previous question, should IOHK implement the pledge requirement? Well, not directly related. The pledge requirement to prevent or reduce Sybil attacks on the Cardano ITN. All right, so for those of you who are not familiar with pledge is where the pool operator dedicates a certain amount of ADA, but it's not in effect yet. It is not effective, and IOHK might implement it or maybe not. It may or may not be implemented. There's a lot still to be learned. So what pledge would do is, let's say I were to make 10 pools and there was a certain pledge amount, I would pledge a certain amount to each of those 10 pools and say, I'm going to dedicate this amount of ADA to the pool, and it counts as both stake, and it's not really locked down, but it's an obligation. It's like an obligatory number. And I think what it will do is it will improve block production. It will add a small amount of luck. I don't know that for sure, but that's probably what it should do. Like if I were to pledge, 100,000 ADA as opposed to someone else only pledged 5,000 ADA, then my luck of the draw should weigh a little heavier for that matter. But that becomes a problem because then you're giving the advantage to people who have the greatest amount of pledge. Now I'll put a link to an article on how to prevent Sybil attacks, a blog post written by Lars Brunez. I've referred to it many times before. I'll put a link down below, and you can read up more on that. So we have 56% versus 8%. So very large number said yes, the pledge requirement should be implemented. The next question is directly related. This question says, if and only if the Cardano ITN were to implement the pledge factor for pool operators to reduce the Sybil attacks, i.e. multiple pools per entity, but you got to define entity. Does that mean one person or one business or one company? For example, my pool's run by 3 people, okay, for example, but it's one group of 3 people. So the question is, what amount of ADA do you think should be the average pledge per pool? And what I mean by that is one instance of one node. So that if I had 10 nodes running, then I would have to pledge to all 10 of those nodes some amount based on what kind of results I'm trying to achieve. So the responses, they're tied between 100K ADA and 1 million ADA. It's tied. So if you split it down the middle, it's about 500K. So 500K is the winner. No, I'm just kidding. You would have to weigh that out because as the price of ADA increases or decreases, the impact of pledge would also maybe have to increase or decrease. Okay, depending. Maybe, maybe not. Something like this probably couldn't be answered until Voltaire, whenever the voting, after Voltaire, when the voting is available on the blockchain. I've had people criticize my Twitter polls, just a couple people. Most people like my Twitter polls. I know they're kind of annoying sometimes. And they say, oh, those Twitter polls, they got to be on the Cardano blockchain or they don't count. Well, okay, guess what? We don't even have smart contracts yet. You got to get some input from somewhere, so I decided to do it on Twitter. It works. I got data. Some data is better than no data, so it's better to get some inputs than have 0 inputs. All right, so yeah, that's all I do with Twitter. There's no other place you get survey feedback data. Like if you've done the IHK surveys, I don't know if those are going to be publicly available, if they're going to tell people what the results of those surveys are. I don't know. I know I filled them out. I just don't know what the results are. Let me see. Are there any questions? Hey, Emma Gator's there. Hi, Emma. Hello, there's no spoon. All right. And hello, everyone. All right. Anyone else who's joined? I'm on number 8 of 14 questions here. That was number 8 there. So pledge could be higher or lower or non-existent. Currently doesn't exist. There is no pledge. But if the option were there, what do you think? What do you think the pledge should be? And feel free to leave comments down below as well. All right, so now here's a technical poll. Number 9, 10, 11, 12 are all technical polls. So number 9 here is for anyone running a pool on the Cardano ITN, which operating system are you using? 84.3% are using Linux. Everything's lean Linux, because Linux you can kind of tweak the variables a little bit more. Mac OS is almost the same, but depends on which variant you have. And then Windows or combination of other. It looks like Linux is the champion right now. That's both good and bad. A lot of people are using Ubuntu. Ubuntu doesn't cost anything, pretty easy to use. There's a really good knowledge base out there. The drawback is that Ubuntu is vulnerable to attacks. I have like 26 rules in my firewall to prevent TCP type attacks on Linux and Linux kernel panic you can spam it, DDoS it. There's certain things you can do to cause a Linux kernel crash. So you don't want everything running on Linux. But people usually don't do those kind of attacks, because if you do them, then it's pretty easily traced and pretty easily stopped and defeated by the software. But the good, there's a lot on Linux. The idea was to have it run on anything. I think there's 9 different binaries released now. There's a new binary for Android. So there's an Android binary I saw in there. I haven't tried it yet, but there is one fella who who did get Jormungandr running on an Android phone. That was very clever. And what he did is he used the Android, he VPN'd to a VPN that allows him to port forward, and then he was able to get Jormungandr running. So pretty cool. All right, on to the next one here. We have number 10 out of 14. This is another technical poll, and the next 2 are also technical polls. And this is for anyone running a pool on Cardano ITN. Which version of Jormungandr have you found to be the most reliable in performance so far? And everyone voted 0.8.6. So that's interesting, and it's good because things have gotten better. Right now, my best pool's running on 0.8.4. And that's just my take. That's just how it worked out for me. I have two polls or 2 nodes running. I've got 5 running. I'll probably have up to 10 running by the end of testnet if my hardware will support it. But 0.86 is more stable, and people have had uptime. Someone showed me an uptime of 400,000 seconds this morning on someone else's node, and so that was pretty cool. But I noticed 0.84 hit more blocks, and the TCP connections tend to be a little bit more clean. So that I found it working a little bit better. That's just my take on it. But it depends on how you've tuned your operating system and your other hardware requirements. That's number 10 out of 14. Welcome, Nick Pavlika, again. Oh, I saw you there earlier. Nick says he's a fan of the polls, and they've helped me get some insights. Initially, I felt that the operators should be charging around 10%, but the 1% group has changed everything. Yeah, the 1%, the 1 PCT pools. I know I mentioned it before. I believe those are professional pool operators. They're probably professional proof of work miners. They went straight to the 1% marker. We were trying to avoid the race to the bottom, and they won by a long shot. They just went straight to 1%. Opened a whole bunch of pools. Right now they have 26, like every letter in the alphabet, GitHub requests so that they can make 36 pools, because right now they got 1 PCT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up in 0. Then they tried A, B, C, D through Z. It looks like the Cardano Foundation put a pause on that. They didn't approve it. They put a notice and said, hey, you need to explain yourself. What are you doing here? What are you trying to achieve? So good job, Cardano Foundation. Well done. The check and balances kind of work there. All right. Long term, we won't need that, but in the short term, it's probably a good idea to put the kibosh on it and say, how many are you going to run now? All right, so 8.6 is what people are running on. That was out of 162 votes. And 8.6 does run pretty well. I saw a spike in performance, but we also noticed the dataless wallets didn't connect after they came out. Now, the next technical poll is related. It says, for anyone running a pool on the Cardano ITN, are you using the public address setting? Well, public address setting, I believe, benefits the dataless wallet users because it allows the dataless wallet to find it. If it does or doesn't, I don't know, because a lot of times you can't get a straight answer. So most people are running with public address turned on. If public address is not turned on, somehow magically the information gets out on the internet. And maybe the dataless wallets find it, maybe not. I don't know for sure. Maybe someone from IOHK can let me know in the comments down below, or let me know if a dataless wallet can find a Jormungandr node that does not have public address turned on. I don't know. But most people, 63%, are running with it turned on. All right, the next question. For anyone running a pool in the Cardano ITN, what max connections are you using? This is an interesting number to check on here, because most people are doing 512 to 1024. And then you have the next number is beast mode, greater than 2048 up to 16,000. Right now I'm running 2048 per node myself. I've run up to 16,000. I've seen it sustain up to 5,000 in early January. But here's why that's important. Let's say you have 500 nodes, and each of those 500 nodes has 1,000 connections. Just use round numbers, or I'll screw up the math. Well, 500 of those 1,000 connections are going to be used to connect to the other nodes. So you have 500 nodes talking to 500 nodes. That leaves 500 remaining connections to talk to the dataless wallets out there in the world and to share the blockchain with them. So what's 500 times 500? God, I shouldn't have done that. 250,000? Okay, so that leaves up to 250,000 connections for wallets to connect to. So the number of max connections does become important as more and more users start to use dataless. Yoroi doesn't really affect it. It affects a little bit, but mainly dataless or any full node wallet. So the number of connections does become important over time as you get more and more users. So somehow that number would have to come up, but people don't leave their dataless wallets open all the time. They just open them, look at, check their balance, delegate, redelegate, and then close it again. Typically, they don't just sit there and leave it open. So that's just an example, all right, of the math. But anyway, it looks like most people are running 512 to 1024. If you're running below 512, I don't think it helps the network because you're just connecting nodes to other nodes. You're not really helping the wallet users. All right, so that's just my view from my limited viewpoint. All right, any questions, please let me know in chat. Cardano MMA says, will this stuff ever work consistently? Good question. I don't know. I haven't seen it work consistently yet. Well, on the mainnet, dataless works really consistently. I think it's all Haskell. Plus, it's connecting primarily to designated servers instead of connecting to a decentralized network. So we'll see. I mean, that's what testnet is for. You know, before we go to mainnet, the answer needs to be yes. So that's the only answer I can give you, Cardano MMA. Will this stuff ever work consistently? Let's put it this way. Before mainnet. That's the only way I can answer that. And I'm glad we're doing a testnet before this goes big time. Cardano's doing it right. I will tell you that. Cardano's doing it right. Second to last one, 13, 14. Oh, wait, is this my last one? That is. This is my last one. Okay. So I did a survey for Digi customers staking with Digital Fortress. How satisfied are you with Digi and Digi2 stake pool performance? And I was tied with 18.2% for very satisfied and satisfied, which outnumbers not satisfied 3-1, which is good. I'm pretty happy with that. I got higher results on my Telegram, but I wanted to kind of lead by example and say, look, if you want to market your pool, you can do a pool poll, do a poll for your pool poll, whatever. Don't make me go Steve Carell on this, okay? So if you want your pool to do well, you have to market. Cardano's in a great position right now because there's like 600. I mean, I know there's 700 pools out there, but it's not really 700 organizations. It might be 500 or 600 groups of people and individuals. And now Cardano right now has an army of marketers. If the pool operators do it right, it will really promote Cardano if you do it right, caveat. Getting on social media, making YouTube videos, making things visible to other people are all good ways to market your pool. But you don't want to be really annoying like the people out in public who bug you when you're walking down the sidewalk and they start handing you leaflets and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. So you want to market it correctly, and that's just an example. And I'm not a marketing expert, but this is just one example. But doing surveys and providing people a product or service they want or use, or just running a pool that has a really low percent that has 100% uptime, that'll work too. Eventually they're going to find it. But anyway, I thought, hey, throw that out there on Twitter and find out what do people really think of my pool, right? Because the haters are going to vote low. They're going to say not satisfied whether they ever used it or not. Maybe they never used it before and they just, I don't like this guy. He looks like Steve Carell, so I'm going to click not satisfied. And then other people are like, oh, he's cool, I'm going to click satisfied. But in the end, this is 236 votes. The results are pretty usable, right? It can tell you, are you doing okay as a pool operator? or are you not? And if the results come back as not satisfied, what can you do better? And there's even more detailed surveys. Like, what did I learn from these surveys that I did? Well, I learned that a lot of people would prefer 3 to 4% on average, and mine are higher than that percent. And I also learned that people are generally satisfied with the pool performance, and people vote with their money. So if you look at the pools where the most stake is sitting, well, that tells you who's doing it right, because that's where people are putting their money. They vote with their money. But this helps me get a better idea of, am I hitting the target, or do I need to adjust my aim a little to better hit the target? So I kind of enjoy doing these Twitter polls, and I hope y'all enjoy them as well and get a little bit out of it. I'll do some more polls. Let me see if there's any questions. I'm going to pause here for questions, and then we're done. So thank you for watching. Svetin, hey, good to see you there. Greetings from Salzburg. Rick, cheers. Where in Salzburg, Svetin? I was wondering where you're at. I noticed I follow you on Twitter too. And are you like a black belt in karate or something like that? I think so. Anyway, if I ever need some muscle, I'll let you know. I'll pay an ADA. All right. Let's see. I think I got everything. Borislav Stolikov, you're doing great because of your automated scripts. Yes, Borislav, I am doing great because of my automated scripts. I have to thank Christian for writing. Well, I got to thank Kyle for testing multiple parameters. I've been in San Diego the last 2 weeks and monitoring from a distance, and my son Kyle has tested various parameters to kind of like bring them in nice and tight and get the pools running good, right? Because no one wants to sit up and just babysit these nodes all night. Although in late December and early January, that's what pool operators had to do to find the right parameters. So Kyle tested a lot of parameters. My son Christian put them into scripts or not scripts, or put them into the system control configuration files. And eventually, Digi1's running like a super champ right now. Digi1's blowing it away. Digi2 is really, really close. Digi2 just needs a little bit of script assist going on, kind of keeping track, making sure he's behaving himself. And if he misbehaves, it does a quick reset on him. It's only like 92 seconds they got it down. It'll just, and they got the timing set so that it doesn't miss a block. This epic, I think Digi primary only missed one block out of 25, so 24 out of 25, and Digi2 just hit 17 out of 19 blocks. So not bad, pretty good, pretty high percent on hit ratio right there. All right, thank you everyone for joining along here. I'm going to wrap this up so that people can watch it later on and it doesn't run on for too long. Thank you for your questions. Y'all have a great day. Oh, I just realized that I am still on my PowerPoint. All right, well, happy Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday, so have a taco. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.